Beyond the buzzer, inside the game, this is Sports IQ with Larry Smith.
Sports IQ, and here we go. Larry Smith, glad you're with us on a hump day. Lots to talk about, of course. Listen, we talk everything here on the show, but we have got, in just a couple of minutes here, talking Michigan basketball. The Wolverines, one of the early surprises, right? We knew they began the season ranked. We know that Dusty May is a great coach. It did very well in the transfer portal in the offseason, but how are they doing right now after the blowout wins last week in Vegas? Everyone talking about the Wolverines. Andrew Kahn is joining us to talk Michigan hoops here in a moment. And then later, we're looking ahead to the weekend, the ACC Championship game. Very intriguing because the winner of that game may not make the college football playoff. Ryan Weiner joining us once again, talking UVA football. So that's on the way as well. And a moment of awe at the end of the show that we will never forget. Okay, let's talk CFP, college football. Our headlines right now, the latest rankings, really the final rankings until the actual pairings come out on Sunday. Very little surprise there at the top. Ohio State, Indiana, Georgia, Texas Tech, 1 through 4. If the playoffs began tomorrow, those 4 would get the first round bye. Oregon at 5, Ole Miss at 6. So the committee does not penalize the Rebels for losing head coach Lane Kiffin to LSU. The defensive coordinator, of course, taking over as the permanent head coach there in Oxford. The Rebels at 6. Texas A&M, after that first loss of the season, knocking them from 3 down to number 7. They will be idle this week, not playing in the SEC Championship game. Oklahoma's at 8, Alabama 9, Notre Dame then at 10. So 11, 12, 13, BYU, Miami, and then Texas. The Longhorns up in the poll, but not enough, it appears, that they will make it. It just really, unless something crazy happens, don't see a scenario where the Longhorns get into the field of 12 after being the preseason number 1. What a win from them. Yes, 3 wins against the top 10. But right now it's looking like, again, in this current model of college football, it's not so much who you beat, it's who you lost to. And they had a bad loss on the road at Florida, and that may be their undoing this season for Texas. Meanwhile, it's National Signing Day. Football commits all over the country making their verbal pledges official by signing letters of intent, with nearly 24 Division I football coaches changing schools. There could be a surprise or two in the offing. So again, watching that all day long today. Coaching carousel, Pat Fitzgerald introduced at Michigan State on Tuesday as their new head coach, coming in from Northwestern. He took some time off after that scandal. His name was cleared in that, and so he replaces Jonathan Smith, given the boot after only 2 seasons in East Lansing. Will Stein's press conference is today. The 36-year-old Oregon offensive coordinator going to Kentucky. He grew up a UK fan. Parents went there. He played a quarterback at Louisville, but again, 36 years old. He will continue to call plays for Oregon, as the Ducks, we know, are headed to an at-large bid to the college football playoff. Possibly could get a first-round bye. We will see what happens there with Will Stein. He replaces Mark Stoops after 13 years. Cal, meanwhile, targeting Oregon's defensive coordinator, Tosh Lapui, and so we'll see what happens there with that. Meanwhile, Lane Kiffin, of course, at LSU, he said in his news conference on Monday that Ole Miss players begged him to stay and coach them in the college football playoff. Well, 3 Rebels players took to social media to say that was not the case at all. And so they had the receipts for that. So little ripped as he is out the door there at Oxford and going down to Baton Rouge. Meanwhile, Kiffin is allowing his offensive coordinator, Charlie Weiss Jr., to coach the Rebels in the college football playoff, and then will join him at LSU. So a little development there. Meanwhile, in hoops, one more story as well. 24 hours ago, it appeared that Penn State would be bringing on Kalani Sitake, but instead their search continues. BYU ponying up and joining. They will give Sitake a new deal to keep him in Provo. And again, it seemed like he was headed east, but instead he'll remain with the Cougars. They are 11-1, taking on Texas Tech for the Big 12 title game this weekend. They need to win to get into the playoff. Now to BYU hoops. The Cougars, number 9 in the country, they're versus Cal Baptist tonight. Number 6 Louisville is at 25th ranked Arkansas, part of the ACC SEC Challenge. Also number 10 Iowa State at home against Alcorn State. Last night, number 1 Purdue 81-65 over Rutgers in their Big Ten opener. Trey Kaufman-Renn with 19 points, 13 boards in that one. What a game in Durham. Duke, 67-66 over the defending champion Florida Gators. Number 4 versus number 15 in that one. Cam Boozer, 29 points. Isaiah Evans with a three-pointer with 19.7 seconds left. That gives Duke the 9-0 start. By the way, 3 of those wins now against the top 25. Michigan State, meanwhile, they will get Duke coming up here on Saturday. The Spartans open Big Ten play, 71-52 winners at home over Iowa. Another great matchup. UConn, number 5 team in the country. They rally from a halftime deficit to beat Kansas in Lawrence, 61-56 over the 21st ranked Jayhawks. A surprise in the ACC SEC. Tennessee, number 13, losing at Syracuse 62-60, and a shocker there. And Kentucky falls at home. They're now 0-3 versus ranked teams. Number 18 Wildcats losing 67-64 to 16th ranked North Carolina. UK just 1 of 13 shooting from three-point range. Got to figure that out in a hurry. They get 11th ranked Gonzaga on Friday. All right. Let's go to producer Tony with our first guest.
Well, thanks, Larry. And we are joined now by Andrew Kahn. He is the Michigan Wolverines basketball beat writer for MLive.com. And Andrew, I have got to tell you, that was one of the most impressive performances I've seen by a basketball team, probably in the last 35 years at any basketball tournament. And I've been watching a lot of college hoops since the mid-'70s. That was sheer impressive basketball that we saw.
It sure was, Tony. I feel like some of the shine rubbed off on me. I was then back in Ann Arbor after being in Vegas for those games on Saturday for the Michigan-Ohio State football game. And some other writers in the press box were like, "Oh no, there's Andrew, beat writer for the number 1 team in the country." It feels like some of their star power rubs off on you. But yeah, I mean, it was unprecedented what they did. Like my job, both for MLive in written word form and now in interviews like this, is to put into words what they did. And at times it was difficult just because, you didn't want to get repetitive with each performance, and because it truly had never been done before.
Yeah, I mean, I watched them coming into the first game in San Diego State, and you're like, okay, they blew them out. This is the opening game of the tournament. Then you had 2 ranked teams back-to-back in Auburn and Gonzaga, and I thought Gonzaga should really give them a match. They're playing well. They kind of match up nicely with them, but it was never a contest. And the thing that really stuck out to me is most of these games were over by halftime.
They absolutely were. I mean, we had a couple games earlier this year that, Michigan had an overtime game. They had another one that went down to the final couple minutes. And, when you're writing a running game story, that could be a little tricky. You're absolutely right. They were done. I mean, in some cases by like the second or third media timeout, you were like, oh my God, these teams don't look like they belong on the same floor. And Michigan just kept pulling away. So yeah, I mean, there are numbers that back this up. No team had ever in the AP poll era, which dates back to the 40s, beaten 2 ranked teams by at least 30 points. And that's what Michigan did with the 40-point win over Gonzaga, the 30-point win over Auburn. And then when you tack on the 40-point win over San Diego State the night before, they weren't ranked, but they're a top 50 program. They're in the NCAA tournament most every year. They went to the national championship just a few years ago. One of the winningest programs, I think, in the last decade with Gonzaga. It was truly unbelievable.
Yeah. So, one of the things that's interesting about this team is the head coach. Dusty May comes from Florida, a smaller program, gets the big time shot here with Michigan, and he's done a phenomenal job. What is the secret sauce he's working with Michigan these days that's making this team play so well?
Yeah, he is. He's like the perfect modern coach in a lot of different ways. I mean, as far as what they're going to do on the court, embracing analytics and, trying to get shots at the rim, easy baskets at the rim and 3-point shots, and then take away those shots on defense and force, tough, mid-range contested shots. And then the roster construction in this era, as it's about raising money and then spending that money wisely. And, it sure looks like Michigan has done that. They do have 4 returning players from last year, and those guys are important. But Yeah, only one of them is starting. So you've got, you got your point guard from North Carolina. You've got, your player of the year candidate right now, from UAB, and he's an incredible story we can touch on if you want later. But then, you've got a front court from Illinois and UCLA, and these were guys that, I'm sure a lot of other programs wanted. But at the same time, they weren't necessarily like at the top of the list of these transfer, portal player rankings. Like, so he found the right guys, and he's made it all work together.
Yeah, and that's the interesting thing. When you see Merrick coming over, you see Perez Johnson coming over, Godot coming in from North Carolina. How hard is it, do you think, watching them? You watch them on a regular basis. How easy did they mesh together? Because I would think that'd be the hardest part. You're used to kind of playing with guys a little bit, and it takes a while to click. It seems like they clicked from day one almost.
It is remarkable. Like, I think that's what makes these preseason rankings are always tricky. I've participated in the AP poll before, but I think it's even harder now with the roster turnover, and I think that's a reason why a team like Purdue, it was just kind of easy to make them number one. Now they've proven that they're worthy of that spot, but like, they're one of the rare programs that, for the most part, is retaining their players and not using the portal so much. But with Michigan, like, it was clear there was a lot of talent, but how it would come together was the big question. And that it's happened so quickly is pretty remarkable. Again, like in the preseason, for various reasons, they didn't really have, all these guys together all that often on the same day. You had guys that were Perez Johnson Jr., for example, playing with, Team USA, overseas. LJ Kaysen, who's a reserve guard, at various, he participated in the camp for that. He didn't make the team, but, and he was at Damian Lillard's camp at one point. And then you've got injuries on top of that. So it was like, these different lineup combinations. I think Dusty said the big lineup with the Axel Lendeborg, Johnson, and Mara, like, had only been together for like a week, before he deployed in an actual game. So, I think it's, someone asked Dusty the other day, what is this team's superpower right now? And he said the unselfishness. So I think that's key. When you have guys that do love to pass, do love to, see each other, their teammates have success, that makes it a little easier to gel more quickly.
And one of the things that I noticed was, I watched Elliot Godot for a couple of years down in North Carolina. Really good ball player, but he seems to have elevated his game up there with Michigan. He's doing a really nice job of distributing the ball, not really worrying about his scoring or looking for his shot, but he's getting the ball to the right people at the right time and making that offense just flow so naturally.
He really is. Dusty says he's the guy that gets him going too. He brings a little bit of an edge, especially even at the point guard position, even being, just 6'1" or whatever. He's feisty out there on both ends of the floor. And yeah, he's all about passing. 13 assists against Gonzaga and just 2 turnovers. I mean, that's the key. Like at North Carolina, if I recall correctly, he led the ACC in assists, but also in turnovers. So he's, those numbers were a little high earlier in the season, but out in Vegas, I think he had, 3 total in the 3 games, so that was good to see. You need a guy like that. That's who Dusty May met with him the day after Michigan was eliminated from the NCAA tournament last year. That's how much he prioritized, having a guy like him. If you're going to go get the talent that Michigan went and got, like you need a guy who can, make it all work and feed everybody and make sure, guys are in the right spots and getting the ball in the right spots. So that's been key. And then his outside shooting, like he was not a particularly good shooter in North Carolina, but Michigan believed if they got him taking, more catch and shoot threes instead of, creating for himself off the dribble, his numbers would go up. And right now I'm looking here, very respectable 37% from 3. So yeah, he's really been doing it all for them.
Yeah, he really reminds me, Andrew, almost a little bit of like Walter Clayton last year for Florida, coming in as a transfer, making it work at the point, also scoring. He was one of their best scoring options at Florida, which Godot doesn't need to be, but almost that same kind of mentality. Like you have to have that point guard in modern college basketball, right?
Yeah, absolutely. The true, pass first point guard, I think, is kind of, going out the window. I mean, again, more teams playing positionless basketball, and Michigan will, they said they're teaching him to not after a rebound just come back and put his hands up like, hey, pass it to me. I'm going to run this break. No, you run the lane because we've got bigs that even can, at least advance the ball, past half court. So they're using his his versatility and all of his offensive skills, I think, to the fullest.
Yeah, I mean, it's really been impressive to see. And what I liked watching them in that Vegas tournament were the two big guys, Morez Johnson and Mara, kind of playing off and with each other. And Mara, to me, I don't know, seems like an early version of a Chet Holmgren. Really tall, can kind of step out. Do you see any comparison to that?
Yeah, I'm not sure like the outside shooting, the ball handling is quite there, but the presence at the rim as a shot blocker and the passing, I think the passing is probably better. That might be his best skill, at least offensively, which is wild to say for someone who's 7'3". But yeah, Michigan, that's another guy. They'll run offense through, in the high post and yeah, it's all about spacing and they've got it now, down to a science really. With that was a problem maybe a little earlier in the year where the offense was a little clunky at times. I mean, this scored 121 points and made, I think, 19 threes or something in their first game. But then after that, it was bogged down at times. And again, Dusty May said that was all about just when you had that kind of size on the floor, they take up a lot of space, and you got to figure out how to get guys spaced properly so that you're not crowding your the paint or whatever. So yeah, they've figured it out now. And Adai Mara is if you've never seen him in person, it is remarkable to see someone that's 7'3" and just the impact he has when his hands are extended either horizontally or vertically. There's just not much room for opposing offenses to really see and do what they want to do.
And you mentioned Landenberg, who is like the Big Ten Player of the Week, I believe.
Yep,
just announced. Give me a little bit of background on, because of all the players that I saw coming in, that I'm watching and reading the Blue Ribbon yearbook and getting ready for the season, he wasn't like on the front burner of those. It wasn't like this guy was the pick out of the transfer portal, but he has really done a tremendous job at Michigan.
He's been amazing, and yes, his journey is something. He barely played high school basketball, because of academics. He played in 12 games as a senior. Later in the season, his mom shipped him out from New Jersey to Arizona Western, a junior college in Yuma, against his will. But the coaches took a flyer on him, and over 3 seasons there, the first one cut short by COVID. He flashed his potential, parlays that into a scholarship offer at UAB, which is, Division I, but not, super big time. Does 2 years there. All he does there is get named, the conference player of the year and, defensive player of the year and a first team all conference pick both years. And then he was pretty highly coveted in the portal. I mean, he could strongly considered the NBA, but it wasn't like a guarantee he was going to be even a first round pick, certainly not necessarily a lottery pick. And, as I think, sure, Tony, there's money to be made in college sports now for the athletes. So, and it was there for him at Michigan. So yeah, that didn't have to be as much of a factor. And yeah, Michigan's plan was to, fully unleash him, and use all of his offensive skills, because he is a real matchup problem with his size and athleticism. And now, he's showing he can shoot the three. Again, he's a great passer. Just several high assist games in Vegas as well. Great rebounder. Like he's a true all around player. And yeah, Big Ten Player of the Week, one of the national top. Made the USBWA 5-man national team for the week. So he's been as advertised and really a potential National Player of the Year candidate here on December 3rd.
Last question before I let you go. These tournaments, a lot of coaches talk about, it helps prepare for March. You get to play these ranked teams, but really, how does it help prepare for the Big Ten schedule coming up? Because the Big Ten is a brutal league. Winning on the road in the Big Ten for any team is not easy. And this should give Michigan a lot of confidence going into the Big Ten season.
Absolutely. Yeah. The postseason element is just because it's, it was 3 games in 3 days against, new programs. So the thought is like, all right, the Big Ten tournament, you're playing that many games in that many days. The NCAA tournament, you get a day between, but it's new teams. So that's the hope there. But yeah, as far as the Big Ten regular season, I mean, that's Michigan's next game. It's against Rutgers on Saturday. Then they have a non-conference game, then one more Big Ten game, then they finish their non-conference. It's just when you got, 18 teams now and 20 conference games, you got to squeeze a couple in early December. So that won't really start in earnest until the new year. But yeah, I mean, you look at the national rankings, obviously Purdue on top right now. Michigan State's up there. Indiana's still undefeated, I believe. There's several, Illinois got talent, USC, like there's teams that are expected to, challenge Michigan up there at the top. And yeah, doing what they just did against, 3 high level teams, 2 for sure. I think is a great sign for what they can do in year 2 under Dusty May.
Yeah, well, Andrew Kahn, thank you so much for sharing some insight into the Michigan Wolverines basketball program. We enjoyed having you. Obviously, we're going to be calling you again during this season because it's going to be a fun ride in the Big Ten. Like you said, there are a lot of really good teams in the Big Ten, and getting ready for March and the Big Ten tournament is going to be fun to see how the conference schedule works out. And Purdue and Michigan, Illinois, Indiana, all battling. Should be some really fun basketball to watch.
Yeah, absolutely. It's I think Michigan will be, they're number 3 in the polls right now. They just seem like a team that's going to be. They won't always look as good as they did in Vegas, but I just think they'll be a top 10 team pretty much all year, and they'll be challenged maybe not every single night in the Big Ten, but certainly enough to keep them sharp for March.
Sounds great. Andrew Kahn, thank you so much for joining us. Really appreciate it. He's Andrew Kahn. He is the Michigan Wolverines beat writer for MLive.com. Check him out online. Give him a like. Follow him. If you're a Michigan Wolverine fan, you're going to get some great information all season long. We will be right back on the Sports IQ after a quick timeout.
Fans of big sports radio and sports spectacular podcasts have a new home on the Chief Sports Network. Find your favorite programs and content all in one place by downloading the Chief Sports app in your mobile device. Created in South Carolina, the Chief Sports Network is the home of an expanding network of live and podcast format programming. It is also the home of one of the leading national college football podcasts, JC and Morgan, hosted by ESPN's Mike Morgan and 24/7 Sports' JC Sherbert. Download the Chief Sports app for free and find all of your favorite programming under one easy umbrella. Thanks to all of our markets for your loyal support of Big Sports Radio and our Sports Spectacular podcast, and we look forward to connecting with you anywhere in the world on the Chief Sports app.
You're listening to Sports IQ with Larry Smith.
A little NBA for you right now, and starting off with a sad note. Eldon Campbell, the longtime LA Laker, died at the age of 57 on Tuesday night. Spent 8.5 years with the Lakers, a former college star there at Clemson. Rest in peace to the great Eldon Campbell. Meanwhile, on the court, 21-1 start now for Oklahoma City, 124-112 at Golden State last night. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, 38 points. That's now his 94th consecutive 20-point game. Still a ways to go, but he can beat Wilt Chamberlain's record for most consecutive 20-point games later on here this season. The Warriors scored 44 points in the third quarter to close that deficit down to 91-88, but they couldn't close it out. No Steph Curry for the second game in a row, and he will miss their upcoming 3-game road trip as well with the thigh bruise. Curry expected to return to action when they return home on December 12th against Minnesota. Speaking of, the T-Wolves getting 44 points from Anthony Edwards as they get the overtime win, 149-142 over New Orleans. By the way, the Pelicans fly just 3-19, not flying right now. Pelicans not good down in the Big Easy. It ain't easy for them right now. Boston over the Knicks, 123-117. Philly, Toronto, and San Antonio also getting wins. Chris Paul, his stint with the Clippers appears to be over. The team's sending him home early from their road trip. Of course, he's already announced he plans to retire at season's end, but they said, listen, He's not the reason that we're losing, but we're done. We will help him with his future. Chris Paul, 21st season in the NBA after being a lottery pick out of Wake Forest, 12-time All-Star. 5 times he has led the league in assists, but the Clippers just 5-16, 5 straight losses, including losing 8 of their last 9. Was not a good return for Chris Paul, the city where he starred for many years before. To the NHL right now, and Vegas goalie Carter Hart, 27 saves, 6 in overtime in his first action in nearly 2 years. He was acquitted of sexual assault allegations in July, helping Vegas to the 4-3 win in overtime last night. By the way, the 27-year-old played 6 years for the Flyers, and now he is back in net in Vegas. The Caps, 5 straight wins, tied atop the Metropolitan now with Carolina. 3-1 winners over L.A. Alex Ovechkin with 2 assists. Tom Wilson had his 16th goal of the season. Islanders over Tampa Bay 2-1. Rangers, and they get the win at Dallas in overtime 3-2. Colorado beating Vancouver 3-1. 5 games tonight, headlining that. Washington stays on the West Coast. They're now at San Jose. Utah is at Anaheim, and it's the Devils hosting Dallas. Okay, stay with us. We talk a little college football. Up next, you're on the Sports IQ.
Hey, airline travelers, let's say you have a problem and you need to change or cancel an existing airline reservation. What do? Well, Skywatch is a free service that can help anyone with any airline reservation fix it. Whether you want to cancel it, change your dates, or add passengers, we can help fix your airline reservations so you get exactly what you need. We've updated our computer database and now have access to every airline around the globe. So now you can make one phone call regardless of who booked your airline tickets, and we'll change it, cancel it, and fix it for you. We know the insider secrets to fixing reservations that the airlines don't want you to know about. So if you need to cancel, change, or modify an existing airline reservation, call Skywatch right now. It's a free call, so let us fix it for you. 800-413-7158. 800-413-7158. 800-413-7158. That's 800-413-7158.
You're locked in to Sports IQ with Larry Smith.
Glad you're still with us here. Producer Tony has our next guest.
Well, thanks, Larry. And one of the championship games, shaping up this weekend is going to be an interesting matchup down there for the ACC title. One of the surprise teams all season has been the University of Virginia taking on Duke, and it's going to have a lot of implications probably for the final 12 teams that we have in the playoff. Joining us now is Ryan Weiner, Senior Associate Editor for the Virginia Cavaliers and covering their football team. And Ryan, thanks so much. You've been on with us before. Thank you again for taking time today to speak with us about the upcoming game.
Of course. Thank you for having me on again.
So let's kind of dive in here. Virginia has had, let's talk about the season as a whole. This has been an outstanding season for Virginia football, and one, frankly, that I think the coach needed to kind of put some rest to. There were some hot seat rumors going into the season for Coach Elliott, right? Does this put all of this to rest now? Is it over with?
He actually has officially now gotten a 1-year automatic contract extension due to getting 10 wins. So it's definitely it puts it to rest.
Great. That's awesome because, he came over from Clemson, brought a specific offense. It took him a few years, but that whole offense really seems to have gelled. Virginia is one of the highest scoring teams in the ACC this year.
Yeah, the offense has really turned itself around. Although I will say it's kind of been a tale of 2 seasons where in the first half of the season, the offense was really reliant on putting up tons and tons of scores. In the second half, it's really been relying on the defense, and the offense has only had to score about 24, 25 points to win games.
What do you think happened at the midway point that kind of clicked with that defense? What set in for them that gave them a little bit of juice here in the second half of the year?
I give part of it to that Florida State game. That is really where I think the whole team turned around, but I think the defense in particular, a lot of big plays were made in that Florida State game. You look at the game-sealing interception. You look at some big plays on 4th downs, the tip drill in the first quarter. There's things like that where you look, and I think they finally realized we can do this against a big team. and all of a sudden the opponent's scores start to go down. You go from 38 against Florida State to 27 with Louisville, 20 Washington State, 16 to UNC. And in the last 3 games they've played, they've given up single digits twice. So the defense is looking a lot better.
Now, you've played Duke fairly recently here, just a few weeks ago. It was a 31-17 final, but it really wasn't that close, was it? Virginia controlled that game throughout.
Yeah, it was, I believe, 31-3 at one point, and going into the fourth quarter, I think it was a 4-score game. Chandler Morris throws a pick 6 in the fourth quarter, and they get 1 touchdown on a go route. All of a sudden, it looks a little close, but as someone watching that game, you never thought it was going the other way.
Talk to me about that quarterback. Talk to me about Chandler Morris, what he's brought to this team, what he has brought to this offense, and how important he's been to the success Virginia is having this year.
He's really brought composure, and I will shout out Virginia's previous quarterback, Anthony Calandria, because he did just win Mountain West Offensive Player of the Year, which is good for him at UNLV. He's having success, but the big thing that Chandler Morris has brought is composure. A lot of what Virginia had last year with their quarterbacking play was inconsistency and a lot of chaos, a lot of balls, a lot of 50-50 balls that were thrown to receivers who probably shouldn't be catching 50-50 balls, a lot of scrambles in situations where scrambles shouldn't be happening, a lot of trick plays in times where trick plays shouldn't be happening. Morris brings a very steady approach. I also think Des Kitchings, the offensive coordinator, has really found his style now in his 4th year here, and he's settled in where he calls trick plays in the right moments, but he doesn't gamble too much. But a lot of what Chandler provides as a dual threat quarterback has just gelled well with this offense, and I mean a lot of the transfers we've gotten have just stuck well.
Now, the one thing going into this game, and it's so odd, with the committee and the playoffs and how they set things up, but there is a chance that if Virginia were to lose this game, that the ACC could potentially be left out of the college football playoff entirely. How do you see that playing out? And what's the thought, being an ACC school and one of the blue bloods of the ACC there at Virginia? How do you think that would sit among conference folks?
I think it would be a disaster. Especially with the 12-team playoff now. In the 4-team playoff, it was pretty common for one of the big conferences to miss out. Say a school went 12-0, but they lost the conference championship game. You could see a school conference getting 2 teams in. With 12 teams, you have to find a way. And look, there is still that outside chance that maybe Virginia loses to Duke, but Miami finds a way to get in as that large bid. But I would see that as near zero. The ACC really needs to find a way to get a team in. Otherwise, you are solidifying yourself as the 4th best conference of those 4, and people start looking at you a lot worse and closer to the American or the Mountain West or one of those conferences, and it just doesn't look good for the future.
And how does the ACC, other than getting Virginia in and having a good showing in the playoff, how can the ACC kind of improve that look among the national, media folks, the national fans of college football? Because the ACC has been kind of in that second tier of conference, right? That we all know, look, the 2 big dogs in college football right now are the Big Ten and the SEC, right? Just they're the biggest conference, they're the largest by teams. They've had the most championships lately, all of that. But the ACC, there's a lot of quality schools there that just haven't quite fulfilled their destiny in football, I think, the last few years.
Yeah, I think the best way to turn this around is honestly going to be on Virginia. It's going to be winning this game, and it's going to be giving, whether it's Ole Miss or Oregon or Texas A&M, it's going to be giving one of those schools a very good fight, or maybe even having to win those games. You're going to have to play a meaningful game and win. Some of it's going to go towards other sports too. I think, obviously football is the big revenue one, but if you look, I think basketball also took a massive step back. So you're going to have to win a lot of games in basketball and kind of bring your name up in the other sports too, so that when people look at football, maybe they think, oh, it's one sport, it's 1 year, we're good. It'll rebound. And obviously next year, when the non-conference games are all around, I know Virginia plays West Virginia in Charlotte, a neutral site. you're going to have to win those games. You can't lose the non-conference games anymore.
How key is it going to be for Virginia to make sure that they bottle up Mensah there for Duke, to keep him under control, not let him find a rhythm? How do you keep him, maybe having some happy feet back there in the pocket?
It's going to be mixing up the rushes. I think that's one thing that Coach Rudd, the defensive coordinator, did an incredible job with last time. You look, Mensah, I think, completed barely over 50% of his passes, only threw for 1 touchdown. We stifled their offense pretty much entirely. And I think a lot of his yards actually came, and the 1 touchdown came in the fourth quarter. A part of that's going to be, mixing how many guys you send. Part of it's also the personnel. One thing they've done great all year is they have 2 guys, Daniel Rickard and Jacob Holmes, who are pretty much third down only personnel. They come in pretty much only to rush, but because of that, you're getting different looks. And they've done a great job getting to the quarterback in those third down situations, or sometimes the second and longs. And it's caused a lot of problems for opposing offensive lines.
For the Virginia offense to click, is it going to solely rest on the quarterback, or does the running game need to, pick up a share of the load against them, against Duke? And how important is it going to be to run the football against this Duke defense?
I mean, Virginia's definitely going to have to prove that they can run the ball, but Jamari Taylor has proven he can run the ball against pretty much anybody. The only 2 games he hasn't hit 50 yards in was against William & Mary, when we put up 55 points and he got taken out in the second quarter, and Washington State, when we played our worst game of the entire season. Against Duke last time, we put up, I believe, 135 rushing yards around and 2 touchdowns. So we're going to establish the run. It's going to be about, when we do that, is it going to result in big plays, or are they going to be content with letting us get 3-4 yards a carry every time and clamping down the pass game?
What kind of atmosphere are you looking for in the stands at that game come Saturday with the ACC title on the line?
So, not to throw a shot at Duke fans, but I watched that game at Duke, and I didn't see a lot of Duke fans in the Duke Stadium. I don't know how well they're going to travel a couple hours down to Charlotte. At least speaking from what I know here, a lot of Virginia students are looking to go down to Charlotte for this game. Everyone is excited. They know this is only the second time we've been to an ACC championship game. They know the implications of the college football playoff, and a lot of students want to be there. Although I would expect a lot of Virginia and Duke alumni alike to be living in Charlotte. So I would expect a good crowd, but I would not expect this to be a Duke favored crowd solely based on the fact that it's in North Carolina.
What would a really good performance mean to Virginia as a program in this game going forward? We always see, like, there's sometimes a 1-year team that they have a really good year, but then they take some steps back. How important is it going to be for Virginia going forward to not only win this championship, make a nice showing, but then improve on it each year going forward? How does Coach Elliott make this, the first step of many steps to get Virginia in that upper echelon of college football?
Yeah, so I mean, part of it is you want to have that label of ACC champions. You want to be able to say, we won the conference last year. We are the best team in this conference, and we were in the college football playoff. And while that actually kind of inherently hurts your recruiting because you're not able to hit the transfer portal or, focus as much attention on recruits a little later. Obviously, today's a national signing day, which is Virginia, I believe, only has about 15 recruits in the class. It might be the worst class in the ACC right now by rank. But part of that is you can then sell to recruits later on in the year, hey, we haven't given you as much attention because we were playing still. While everyone else is playing for the Gasparilla Bowl in December, we're playing for the college football playoff. And you can keep building on that. Obviously, this is a very old team. I believe in senior day, they were honoring something like 30, 40 people. But you can use that as leverage and say, hey, we were one of the 12 last teams playing. Other teams were playing, Northern Illinois in December. We're playing Ole Miss. This is our program. We're an elite school now. You just saw we've got 11 wins. Take a chance on us. You saw what we could do.
That would, I think, be key for Virginia, because I think there's a lot of potential at Virginia. I love Coach Elliott. I think he's a great coach. I think you're starting to see what he can build there, and it would be so important for him to win this game, I think, on Saturday to just elevate the whole thing.
Yeah, this is a huge game, especially because of the opponent. I think it would have been one thing if this was an SMU or a Pitt team, and you look, and it would have been pretty evenly matched. Not to say Duke's not an even match, but when you beat a team by 17 points earlier in the season, they're 7-5. The weight of the conference's fate being on your hands. This is a huge game for Coach Elliott. Obviously, he's already earned himself an extra year. I think he's earned himself an extra couple years at the helm of the program. Obviously, he's already shown to people that Virginia can be a giant in the ACC, but now it's time to show that we can be a giant on the national scale, and you have to win this game, and you have to then go put up a great showing in that next game to do so.
So give me two things for Virginia that you want to see happen that you see early on. What do you want to see early in that first quarter that no, Virginia is on the right track and they're going to dominate this game Saturday?
The first thing I want to see is a Jamari Taylor touchdown, particularly through the Wildcat. That has been the key thing that they've done with Jamari Taylor on the goal line. They'll direct snap the ball to him and he runs it in, or as in last game, he actually he got a passing touchdown because they faked they did the direct snap, but they faked the run and they had him throw it to our tight end, Sage Ennis. So I want to see some Wildcat trickery in the first quarter go well, and I want to see a sack or two. I want to see us get behind. I want to see us get behind that offensive line, get to Mensah early. That was an area that we did very well in. We created a lot of pressure on Mensah last time, forced him to make some bad throws and mistakes. And you got to keep him honest. If you give him all day back there, Mensah is probably one of the top 2 or 3 quarterbacks in the ACC, and he will burn you. So you have to get to him and get the pressure. So I want to see that happen early and often.
Well, Ryan Weiner, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for giving us some insight into this ACC Championship game on Saturday. Ryan Weiner, he is Senior Associate Editor for the Virginia Cavaliers newspaper, covering the Virginia Cavaliers football team. Ryan, thank you so much for taking time out of your day and speaking with us.
Thank you for having me. Go Hoos.
Go Hoos. Have a great game Saturday. Enjoy the atmosphere down there in Charlotte. And when you make the playoff, we'll be talking again, I'm sure.
Yes, we will.
We will be back with the Sports IQ right after a quick timeout.
Everything is expensive right now. Gas, food, you name it. You're spending more, you are making the same or less money. So, what do? You rack up credit card debt. That's what you do. It's not your fault. It's the economy. And guess what? If you rack up too much credit card debt like some of us, you can't pay your bills. Then the credit card companies, as nice as they are, start hounding you for money. Then you start your downward spiral. A smart thing for you to do is to call the Zero Debt. They can help you consolidate all your credit card bills into one affordable payment. Millions of people have done it. It works to make you debt-free. Make this free call right now. It costs you nothing to learn more.
800-507-7293. 800-507-7293. 800-507-7293. That's 800-507-7293.
Are you tired of your website making your business look bad? Is your current web developer dropping the ball? Let's face it, if your website isn't making you money, it's broken. Let Neon Rain create a website that turns your visitors into customers. Neon Rain has worked with hundreds of businesses across North America, building custom websites and applications with modern designs that are easy to update and work well on mobile devices. They can do it for you too. What sets Neon Rain apart? They actually deliver on their promises. Call today for a free consultation. 303-957-3092. That's Neon Rain at 303-957-3092. Or visit them at neonrain.com.
Well, producer Tony now joining us. And Tony, we were talking here in the break, getting ready for this. The new CFP rankings, the last rankings are now out as of last night. And you noticed one thing there at the bottom of the top 10 where those teams are positioned.
Yeah, they jumped Alabama ahead of Notre Dame, which to me signals if it's a close SEC championship game that Alabama's still going to get in. Okay, they don't have to. It would behoove them to win the game, But if it's a close game, if it's a field goal game, if it's a one possession game, I still think Alabama finds their way, even with 3 losses, into, the college football playoff. That's just my reading of what they're doing down there.
Yeah. Yeah. Now here's a question. You and I felt last year, we still believe that if you're good enough to be one of the top 2 in your power conference, Georgia, Alabama, even if you lose, you should not be replaced by a team, say Texas, that didn't have that extra game to lose. If Alabama loses this game, do you think they're still in by that virtue?
Yeah, I think they're still in, but I don't think they can afford like what happened to Texas and Georgia. They can't afford a 35-10 game.
Okay.
They can stay in with a 1-score loss to Georgia. Okay. Like I said, it would be better to win that game because they would have a chance possibly at a first-round bye, maybe, given their schedule and their strength of schedule. I could definitely see that happening. But I do still think that they're going to get into the field. Now, I don't think there's any way Texas gets in. Just looking at the rankings from tonight, I think the committee has made it clear that there's really no path for Texas to make it into this conference championship.
Yeah, it just seems like that there's, BYU, Miami, Texas is ahead of both or ahead of Texas. So you're exactly right. Here's something too. One scenario, let's play these out one by one. BYU beats Texas Tech. That takes 2 teams then from the Big 12 and probably knocks, look at this, Notre Dame possibly could be knocked out.
Yeah. Every Notre Dame fan is a big Texas Tech fan this weekend. Every Notre Dame fan is going to have all their Texas Tech gear out and have it with them because Texas Tech kind of holds Notre Dame's fate in their hand. If they beat BYU, BYU is probably left out of the field. If BYU beats Texas Tech, they're both going to get in, and Notre Dame's going to get left home.
Yeah. And the other thing, too, we should explain, the ACC does not have an automatic bid. If Duke wins, then the ACC could just get shut out, right? Explain how this works.
Yeah, the 5 automatic or the 4 automatic bids go to the highest rated conference championships and group of 5. Right? So you've got those 5 automatic bids. There's 4 conference champions and the group of 5. But if the group of 5, if one of those conference championships isn't rated high enough, the committee can take 2 non-power 5 representatives that win their conference championship. So let's say North Texas wins their championship, and let's say James Madison wins their championship. They would both probably finish in the rankings higher than Duke. Therefore, the committee could take both North Texas and James Madison and put them in the playoff and leave the ACC out altogether.
Wow. And that's a problem, too, we're going to be talking about here in the weeks and months to come, is the way that this is set up and the way you have unbalanced schedules. And this is kind of the conundrum that's facing every athletic director across the country. Do I schedule easier non-conference games and count on the conference when the conference, just because you're in a massive conference like the Big 12, like the ACC, doesn't mean you're going to have those kind of quality wins to give you the resume you need come Selection Sunday. So you're going to have to schedule somebody there somewhere like Texas did because you just don't know on any given year because you're playing different teams within your conference every year.
Exactly. You don't know how your conference is going to lay out. Your schedule may look daunting in 2022 for 2026. And then when you get there, you go, ooh, a lot of these teams didn't live up to expectation.
Yeah.
You think scheduling Florida State is a great move. Florida State finished 5-7. Now that's the one thing that could hurt Alabama in this overall seeding. They have a bad loss.
Yeah.
Yes, it was the first game of the season. If you're going to lose early, right? That's always the way it is.
Yeah.
But that is a bad loss. This Florida State team was not that good. They finished 5-7. So Alabama has a sub 500 loss on their resume, which could hurt them in the final, the final rankings. Again, I think Alabama will get in with a close game. I'm starting to try to figure out, is there a way for Miami to get in? I don't think there's a way for Miami to get into the college football playoff field at this point because they're sitting 12th.
Yeah. Not the way this is looking. And to your point with Alabama, not only a bad loss, but a bad loss to a 5-7 Florida State team from a conference that got shut out. So,
Right.
Yeah, exactly. That's a big X on Alabama's side of the ledger. So, all right. Well, the fun continues. We continue right here with our moment of awe up next.
How would you like to get high-speed internet for your home for less than $2 a day? That's right. For about $50 a month, you'll get lightning fast internet. Are you paying less than $50 a month right now for your internet? Then call Whole Home Connect right now for blazing fast internet at $50 a month with no price increases, no hidden fees, no contracts, no upfront costs, no equipment fees. It's a great deal. And guess what? You can try it for 15 days. If you don't like it, you get your money back. But you're going to love it. And you're going to love the price. Internet for your home for $50 a month. That's less than $2 a day. Plus, no contracts, no upfront costs, no equipment fees, and our 15-day guarantee. Call now. 800-215-0341. 800-215-0341. 800-215-0341. That's 800-215-0341.
Okay, time now for a moment of awe. And we go back to on this day in 1956 and the collegiate debut of one Wilt Chamberlain. All he did in game one with the Kansas Jayhawks was score 52 points and grab 31 rebounds as KU beat Northwestern 87-69. Of course, he went on to become All-American in both of his 2 seasons in college. The end of that year ending in the triple overtime heartbreak as they fell to North Carolina 54-53, just 1 point more than what he scored in this game on this day in 1956. And that is our moment of awe. Thanks so much to our guest stopping by, Andrew Kahn. Thanks as well to Andrew Weiner. And thanks to you here on the Sports IQ. I'm Larry Smith. Make it a great Wednesday. We'll see you tomorrow.
Thanks for listening to Sports IQ with Larry Smith, Monday through Friday. Continue the conversation at Sports IQ LS. We'll see you next time.